Yo, welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be covering over the top decks from the regional championships that just happened in Stuttgart regionals over in Germany. So whether you're playing in Germany or not, this might be a cool way to be like, hey, that's my friend, that's my deck, or you get to learn a little bit more about the metagame. I'm still going to continuously do the top 10 best decks, but we will see exactly what we have. I'm doing it a little bit different than what I did previously. Like, we have all the results all the way down to 305 place. Like, day twos are getting larger with the new X21 being re-implemented. But I'm going to be covering over the top 16 decks and then just talking about some general meta trends that we might have seen at the regionals. So starting off with Nikolai playing Snorlax Stall. And you can see all these lists available on the Limitless Stuttgart page, so you can copy and paste those right into live. And I'll put that in the description so you can kind of see exactly what's going on. So they actually played a copy of Enriching Energy, which I thought was really cool in this deck. Because when you attach this card from your hand to a Pokemon, you draw 4 cards. So I believe that they were doing Pidgeot Enriching Energy at the end, or just to kind of go through their deck, having that +4 draw. And they could use Chorus's Tenacity to search it out, effectively being search your deck for an Artisan and then draw 4 cards as long as you had Pidgeot in play. So nothing else too major. I don't know if that's necessarily going to catch on, because we see other A specs that are in this deck. Hero's Cape might be a little bit more beneficial to bring Snorlax over from 150 to 250. But it is cool to see Enriching Energy get its flowers. I think it's a cool A spec. Most A specs are actually pretty cool, and they'll have their kind of place. So I think it's a cool take on the deck. Nothing that I particularly have any comments on beyond it's like a Snorlax deck. I think a lot of these cores of Snorlax, it doesn't have to necessarily be the same core. And we see text like some people play Giacomo, some people play Temple of Sinnoh. This is something where I don't necessarily think we need to go all one way or one other. At the end of the day, it's Snorlax, and if you run into the right matchups and your deck works, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm not saying this deck's not perfect, but I'm also not saying it's perfect either. We have Yannick, I'm not entirely sure. If I butcher anyone's name, terribly sorry there. We see Charizard, one of the big kind of decks in format. We can see that there was actually a large group of players that played this. So this deck has some proven success with it being 13th place, so we won't necessarily cover that one again, or I'll just note it. And then 15th place. So if we open this one up, I think like most lists are pretty similar. It's just like, where do those last tech slots come down to? You either go with like a trolley version of the deck, or you go with a unfair stamp version of the deck for the most part. And now you just kind of, do you play Lost Vacuum? Do you play Second Duskull? Most of the lists are relatively the same other than that. And I think that's really where a lot of these decks are lying. So I've been featuring Charizard as one of the top decks in our top 10 best decks weekly. I think a deck like this, kind of like I was saying with Snorlax, like, I think the techs, they might have thought that Lost Vacuum might have been more helpful for the Klawf Terapagos match to take away super effective glasses. That's their take on the metagame, right? And I think that might be worthwhile, or maybe they're taking, like, there's a reason why you include cards like Lost Vacuum in your deck. So when you're building your decks at home, think about what you're including in your decks to kind of bring them to those next level and why you might be including them. So great job over there. We're going to look at Simone, who's playing Roaring Moon, Turbo Roaring Moon here. And we see that there's a handful of players again. So we see that there's some proven success here with this deck. And it looks like we're just seeing kind of these new Turbo Roaring Moon lists emerge that are running Koraidon with Unrelenting Onslaught. It makes sense that after Sacramento Regionals, we include a fighting type Pokemon into this deck that has great synergy with this deck. So you can just kind of pop an Unrelenting Onslaught, knock out your opponent's active Miraidon, Terapagos, Fezandipity, Lumineon, Rotom, if you've attacked with one of your ancient Pokemon the previous turn. I like the Petulant idea here, so you could just kind of Petulant, poison your opponent's active Pokemon, and then they take 6 damage counters. That's kind of cool. Or is that, am I getting this wrong? How does this work? They're just using it for, yeah, poison chain. So they could poison chain. They can't poison with the Petrant EX, because this only, I was getting it confused. You can switch the dark Pokemon and make it poisoned. But this Petrant, they're only using it for poison chain. So I'm not entirely sure how the poison chain is going to work. On how, like, I guess they're trying to power up as a single prize card Pokemon. Maybe the special condition goes through Pheasantipity, or maybe it's helpful. Maybe it's probably something to get around like Mimikyu or anything else like that, or any of these like other Pokemon that maybe we can't hit the knockouts with Roaring Moon. So this might actually be able to help, and then they can't retreat. So that seems like it's kind of a cute tech. Not sure how I feel. I want to see that one a little bit more in action. But otherwise, I think like these lists are, again, we've seen Turbo Roaring Moon pretty standardized over the past like few events. We see some lists that run 2 Judge, 1 Iono, 1 Judge, 1 Iono, whatever, anything else like that. So this, I mean, if you're looking to pick up the Roaring Moon archetype, it's probably, it might be getting better than Miraidon. It's just like the aggressive, big single basics kind of deck. And then we're going to see David's list. Now, David, I believe, was the same list exactly, so I'm not going to necessarily cover this one again. Great job to David there. We have, I believe, Yari playing Klawf Terapagos. So this is probably going to be the biggest metagame shift. Now, we saw Klawf Terapagos decks, and I'll just put it up there so you can see that there's a 1 Pheasantipity. Again, all these lists you can kind of see if you click in the description. So we see the Klawf Terapagos. We saw these decks kind of pop up at Sacramento. I didn't really see them before then. Maybe there was like a YouTube video or something. Now I think it's a cool take on the deck, because Klawf, you just get the big bench with Terapagos plus the additional bench slots. With you playing a poison version of the deck where you can go Brute Bonnet using poison on your Pokemon. You can go 30. So you're 240 with having 8 on the bench, minus 20 from double turbo, 220, plus poison on your opponent's active, 230, plus additional damage from Binding Mochi, 270, plus Radiant Hisuian Sneasler, 290. And if you get knocked out going back into your turn, you can send up Petrant. Petrant can knock out something like a Charizard. And then you have things like its Hisuian Electrode V with the super effective glasses. And we see a fighting type and single prize card Pokemon. So for me, out of any decks that I've seen, to me, like, I like how this deck works. And it's kind of like the army of odd Pokemon. Like, which deck is playing a Rangaroo V other than this one, right? Where, like, once during this turn, you search your deck for 2 Pokemon Tool cards. The Pokemon Tool cards are Forest Steel Stone, so this is kind of a self-fulfilling Forest Steel Stone targets. And then you can search out the other things like Binding Mochi. There's a lot of, like, pieces you need to make this deck work, but I think it's just such a cool take on the deck. And I love using Precious Trolley, like, with an Area 0. So if you have, like, the one, like, searching your deck for 7 Pokemon is, like, such a meme, but it's so, like, good. So I like this deck a lot in general. I think we're going to see a lot more as we go into Perth regionals, Bogota regionals, and Toronto regionals to round out our 2024 Pokemon. So I expect a lot more of this deck as we go forward. And I like the list a lot. I don't know how I feel about the just to go back into here. I don't know how I feel about the copy of Energy Lotto, but I'm unsure about that as well. I think a second copy of Super Effective Glasses might be good for the amount of Charizard that we saw at this event. Now we see our first Regidrago. Now Regidrago, I don't believe made top 8 at this event, and we just see a pretty standard version of this list. It looks very similar to the version that Azul and Caleb Gedimer and Grant Shen and all those kind of players played towards Sacramento regionals. Some of them made top cuts, a lot of them made day 2. Typical Regidrago list with Alolan Executor, being able to use Swinging Sphene to knock out Pokemon, or even using Tropical Frenzy to power up another Pokemon if you really need to. This build opted to go for Jamming Tower, which can be effective based off of the amount of tools we see in decks like Klawf Terapagos. I have seen Temple of Sinnoh being played in those decks to shut off their energy usage, shut off Mimikyu Cornerstone, like decks like that. So I think either or could be interesting. But I know like Regidrago is often kind of regurgitated Pokemon. So as we kind of approach through this, it more or less it is what it is. It's been around since the top, so I know a lot of y'all like this list just looks good. We're gonna see a list from Matthew here. So Matthew playing Gardevoir. They also played it at the regionals in Poland where they made top 16. So when it comes to a top consistent deck, there's just the one Klefki in the corner there. This looks like it's a pretty solid take on Gardevoir. Very similar to what Henry won Baltimore regionals with earlier this season. So I think that a lot of these like takes on the deck are really cool. I think there was another Gardevoir deck in our top 8 that had some interesting takes on it. And that's something that I'm going to go over a little bit more in depth. But like, if you're looking for just pretty close to perfect Secret Box Guardy, this is pretty close to perfect Secret Box Guardy. So that's pretty cool if you ask me. I think Gardevoir is semi well positioned in this format. Like, it's just, I feel like if Regidrago didn't exist, this deck would be like the best deck in format. Doing quick break and kind of ad plug for Advanced GG. So we've been they support us here at the Shuffle Squad as a 30-year-old plus content creator. I mean, I'm pretty in my early 30s. Advanced GG gets me through my day with their energy supplement. I've been drinking the guava berry. It's been absolutely fantastic. So when I'm recording these early in the morning, before I kind of get to everything else I do in my day, that's the stuff that gets me through it. If you're of age, that's cool. Or if your parents say that's cool, that's cool. They also have other hydration and non-caffeinated or non-energy focus. So check them out. advancedgg.com. Use code TSSWIN and save 10%. So we're going to move on to our next deck here. And while I'm doing that, you could also give this video a like, share, double check to see if you've subscribed, and let us know in the comments what you think about these decks. We're going to see Patrick here playing just like a Dragapult Dusknoir deck. We see some versions that play Crispin, that they play one Duskull. Not sure how I feel about the Duskull getting Duskull back from the discard pile, but maybe having the double option there seems okay. They've slapped in a Terra Orb. In general, I think that sounds cool, but really we're just trying to Dragapult Sparkling Crystal or Dragapult Crispin and then control things with Dusknoir. I don't think this deck is like super well positioned, but sometimes it can be. Like, it just really depends on the matchups you're hitting. More or less, I feel like this is one of those decks that just kind of exists when I kind of like I have it in the top 30 or so decks, and it hovers between like the bottom 30, the 11 to 20 range. Like, I just don't think it's top 10 right now. But it's definitely a cool deck, and it's cool to seeing success. It's definitely the type of deck that can win, right? Like, it's stronger than just like other decks. It more or less exists with the meta, like it exists in the current metagame, but not to a level that like is like wild. But the Terra Orb is a cool thing there. Now we're gonna see Antoine playing Gholdengo, which I think is really cool. They're the person that does all of the early Japanese translations. You might have seen them on socials there. And I like their take on the deck, going with the 4 Gimmighoul. We have the new Gimmighoul's in this deck with minor Aaron running. Same 70 HP, same 2 energy retreat. But you reveal them, put them in your hand, it's all good. That works out. And we see Gholdengo ripping all those energies. So we've gained not only the new Gimmighoul, but we gained Energy Surge Pro. So you can search your deck for all these basic energy cards. And I mean, you search for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and maybe you have one in your hand, so you search for 6 or 7. But you're lawn mowing your opponent here. If they have a Charizard EX in the active, you're knocking that boy out. And then we got the Togekiss line, and Togekiss sounded weird at first, but just being able to draw an extra prize card off a coin flip means that against a single prize card deck, we have some kind of answer where we don't need to have the Radiant Greninja for. Let's say if we ever knocked out a single prize card, we can maybe draw 3 prize cards. We turn the game from 4 turns to 3 turns, 3 turns to 2 turns, right? So like Togekiss does have a lot of synergy here with these decks that can afford to run it. I would have liked to see a Thornton in this deck so you can kind of cheat out a Togepi from a Manaphy or a Radiant Greninja rare candy automatically. Same thing, like if you didn't get a Gimmighoul down, you could turn a Manaphy into Gimmighoul, auto evolve into Gholdengo. I think there's enough opportunities to make it happen, but otherwise I think this list is completely fine and a great look on the current metagame. So sick job to them. We're gonna see Robin Schulz, world champion, by the way, everyone. Now Robin Schulz playing Klawf Terapagos. I think their list is very similar to the one that we previously saw in the top 16, so I'm not going to go into too many details, except they did run Genesect. Some decks that need their A-Spec would probably be like Ancient Box, for example. Just being able to be like, hey, by the way, your Prime Catcher does nothing, or because they just cannot play them from their hands. I think Genesect does have some opportunities there to kind of change the meta spread of this deck. So when you have that big bench with Area 0, Genesect with all the tool cards here, 3, 6, 8, 9 tool cards, I think there's some synergy there that makes this card slightly better than normal. So I'm gonna have to give it to Robin. Robin is one of the most innovative deck builders in the game, one of the strongest, cleanest players, period, and has been for since as long as I can remember playing Pokemon. Just absolutely fantastic. And I mean, they literally also run the website that I'm literally looking at all these decks for. So just a community figure. I'm always happy when I see people who truly deserve it seeing success. We see Owen Kammerman, and I mean, whenever you see the Metafile logo, you know that they're like actively coaching players. Like you can see Tords down here, you can see Nico. Like it's nothing special, but like you have to be on Metafy and coaching players, so that's really cool. Let's see what we have here. So they're playing again the same Gholdengo, same Gimmighoul, so we know the Gimmighouls are better. They decided to go, instead of the Togekiss line, to go for an Origin Form Palkia VSTAR line, so they could power up energies on Radiant Greninja. I guess they went 3-3, and they're just running more energies in general. Maybe that makes it a little bit easier to use concealed cards or discard cards with like Ultra Ball. I think that a take like this is fine. Like it's non-coin flip based. So as we look at where it's non-coin flip based, I like it. And I think that it makes it worthwhile to try to experiment with both. Like both versions of this deck seem incredibly good. I like the Togekiss a little bit more. Maybe that's just my style of play, but I do think that the Origin Form Palkia VSTAR build is really cool here too. Moving on up to number 5, we see kind of a unique deck here, the Dragapult Iron Thorns. We see Mads, who's playing it. So got Dragapult in the front, Iron Thorns in the back, or if you flip around, Iron Thorns in the front, Dragapult in the back. Being able to use Iron Thorns here to stop some abilities with rule boxes in play. So some decks just really rely on those, like a Miraidon, for example, might not be able to search things out. You can go for a pure-on initialization strategy, or if you're playing against things where it's not going to be particularly good, like Ancient Box or Lost Zone Box, Dragapult EX can kind of come in and use Phantom Dive, and the whole deck revolves around using Crispin to accelerate all the different energies that we have here throughout the deck. And we got Precious Trolley to kind of search things out, which seems kind of cool. Making this happen, there is a Toadscroll line, so cards in your opponent's discard pile can't be put into their hands, giving yourself an answer against superior energy retrieval, giving yourself an answer to Night Stretcher, giving yourself an answer to Regidrago. So Slime, Mold Colony, really cool tech card there. I think that this deck is like really undervalued and underrated. So if you're looking for something that's like kind of new and exciting, I think that this is kind of new and exciting. As we move on, we're going to go into the top 4 of the tournaments. We have Nathan here, who made top 4, and this is the build of Gardevoir that I was talking about. That's different. We have, instead of going with Secret Box, we go with Precious Trolley. A lot of Precious Trolley usage at this Regionals, so it's cool to see that, like, my initial thoughts on this A-Spec make it a little bit better than what it was. But they went for Call Bell, a card that I'm happy I picked up from our sponsors at Kayfabe Cards. Check them out in the description, by the way. They are absolutely fantastic group of people that sell Pokemon cards there. So you can only use this card if you go second and only during your first turn. So Gardevoir wants to go second, search your deck for a supporter card and put it into your hand. So really our goal is to search our deck for an Arven, Precious Trolley, board set up. And it just means that we have discard fodder for Kirlia going further on in the game, and we are just ready to be set up. Still have rare candy for Gardevoir, still have things that we could do. And just technical machine evolution, Arven, turn 2, perfect setup. Anytime a deck perfectly sets up, it is good to go. So I think we might see a few more builds of this experimented in Perth, Bogota, and Toronto. And we might see some more Call Bell, Precious Trolley combos as well. But I think the Call Bell works particularly well because of Kirlia. From what I understand is this player is coached by Tord Reklev, not to take away from any of their accomplishments because coaching is great and all that stuff. I'm a coach myself, so if you're looking to try to get some coaching, hit me up on metafy.gg/@ZachLassage. Totally love to help you on your next journey. Tord basically was like, yeah, I kind of came up with this concept, gave it to my client, and here they are in the top 4. So definitely innovative there from one of the world's best. We see Matea could be completely killing that name. Palkia Terapagos is a deck that we've seen a little bit of previously, being able to have that big bench with Area 0. Now you can attack with Palkia VSTAR. Now you can attack with Terapagos, Radiant Greninja. So it kind of takes a lot of the ideas we've seen where Palkia VSTAR can power itself up and be a powerful attacker with the big bench and subspace swell. We see Terapagos EX being a strong choice, again, for similar reasons, having a Blood Moon late game and using the Noctowl engine. I don't think it brought anything like super new. It did take out, from what I originally saw, this version of the deck, the Illumise and the Volbeats. Certainly it's one of those decks where it seems successful. I don't know if it's top 4 regional successful, but they got there, right? So I think like right now I have this deck in my top 20 decks right now, but not a top 10 deck. I don't really have too much about this deck other than that it seems okay. I think it might lose to some of the big basic decks though, based off of everything that I'm seeing here. But we'll see how it goes. Great job to them. And we see Oywins. Hopefully, again, pronouncing that one right. Playing the Charizard deck. So looking like, I'm not sure why they played this Charmeleon. Maybe it's to deal with Mimikyus to get around through the Fire Blast. Went with a 1/1 Pidgeot. Again, not a fan of this Pidgey because of Dusclops right here that can snipe for 50. Seems like pretty standard across the board version of the deck. See Palpad here, and Palpad with Turo, and Thornton does probably, like, they're probably trying to have a strong case against some of these maybe control decks or wall decks. And then we see Pokestop, which is an interesting choice to maybe get out some early things like Buddy Poffin or Rare Candy. I think I like more of a traditional version of Charizard when it comes down to it, but I do think that the Pokestop is pretty innovative when it comes down to it. So definitely a cool option. Maybe it's something I need to try out. Haven't tried that one out yet before. And as we go through, we see Arnie, who won. They're definitely a friend of the squad. They've been playing this list for Lille, Dansk, Stuttgart, and I was about to be like, for a second I thought that was them again. I'm like, how did they come first and 24th? They had some really strong runs with this deck list. So three day twos, winning one of them, absolutely fantastic choice. So maybe it's worthwhile to play the second Duskull. I currently only have one in my deck. And I think I don't think there's really too much else that's different here between the deck that I've been featuring on the channel compared to this deck. So maybe the second Duskull is the play. Arnie would know, they're the regional champion. Even though I'm a regional champion too, y'all, it's one of those things where I definitely have to give it up to the player who had it, and they probably know a little bit more. So absolutely fantastic list to kind of top this out. Now, as I was saying, I do want to kind of look at, you can see, I think statistics is what I wanted to look at. These are the decks. I think there's about 300 players in day two. We see 40 Drago, 32 Charizard, 31 Klawf. It's wild, y'all. So you can see how like decks like Raging Bolt that previously were within the top aren't necessarily cutting it right now. We see decks such as Roaring Moon, they're maybe moving up a little bit. Ancient Box might be moving up a little bit. So this is a good way to see exactly which decks are up there. There are some other decks too that like weren't necessarily expecting to see up there, like Arcaladon. 9 of them made top cuts. We see some Gouging Fire, 5 of them made it there. We see some Ceruledge, 4 of them made it there. Conkeldurr, 2 of them made it there. Conkeldurr, right? Like, I think it's one of those things. This does show some stream graphics as well, showing like what the analysis of the event might be. So deck analysis, like these were the top played decks. I expect Charizard to be moving up. Otherwise, I don't really see too much else changing in our current metagame. So as we kind of look through it, a lot of stuff is just kind of a great way to look at the rest of the video and just be like, I think maybe Dango is going to move up to a top 5 deck being played. Raging Bolt might move down, but it's always, Raging Bolt's always been such a huge played deck. And day two, like a lot of Klawf, a lot of Charizard, a lot of everything being played. So really, really, really interesting choices where we can see how decks change from day 1 to day 2 and how everything else works from there. So for a deck like Regidrago to be the #1 played deck, to go from 11% of the metagame to 13%, that makes sense. For a deck like Raging Bolt to be 10% of the metagame to 6%, that means it's probably not. So when a deck is up here, you want to see it either grow or stay similar, not necessarily go down in play. Which is like, we can see decks like Terapagos go from 5 to 7. Nearly 1 in every 4 players that played Terapagos made day 2. But if we look at only 1 in every 10 players that played Raging Bolt, give or take, made day 2. Something to consider, right? And 1 in every 3 players that played Snorlax made day 2. Ancient Box goes from 4% to 4%. So we see how these things really can change out as the game proceeds. Lost Zone Box players not have a good conversion rate. Gholdengo ended up having a decent conversion rate. Miraidon, very poor conversion rates. Less than 1 in 10 players playing Miraidon made day 2. Archaladon, nowhere on the map to it. So I don't know how many people played Archaladon. We might have seen 1 and 2. Archaladon might be proving its success there. So we'll have to see how everything plays out as we continuously go forward. But that's what we got going on for the results from Stuttgart regionals. Be sure to check it out. There's lists all available here on the Limitless website. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. And this is where we're going to do the sponsor shout out, y'all. If you're trying to pick up any of the cards to build these decks, check out Kayfabe Cards in our description. So I think it's a TCG player website, but they do have some fantastic deck choices. Check out our sponsors over at Ultimate Guards. I rock all their products. This is a deck box that I've had since before Worlds in Japan. It is pristine, holds my deck there. It actually holds my Worlds deck from Japan that I just keep on my desk to shuffle whenever I'm looking for things. These are the sleeves that I played for the tournament in Japan. The deck is literally like still playable to this day. Honestly, like, I love Katana sleeves, love the Sidewinders, love all the products there available. If you're trying to build these decks online, check out our sponsor at ptcgostore.com. You could plug in some gift cards when it comes down to it. The code cards from the website, you could definitely see exactly what's going down. So code TSS 10, TSS 5, it's in the description, so double check. And then of course Advanced GG that we got going on there. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll stay tuned for more content, and we will catch up with y'all real soon. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.